Hello and welcome back to a Squirrel Plays. Today we're going to be talking about a new TTRPG called Ironbound. So new, as a matter of fact, it's still in the oven cooking. Mechanically, everything has been ironed out, no pun intended, and is good to go. So unless you manage to find something that just absolutely breaks the game, don't expect any changes there. The book itself, however, is still cooking. You know, things like the layout, artwork, and everybody's favorite, proofreading and checking for grammatical errors and typos. And I say that with much sarcasm because I hate that part of the process. But more importantly, I bring that up because as I show you pages from this book, you will probably see some of those errors since it's currently under construction. Anyway, it's been a hot minute since I did a full-on TTRPG review, so let's see if I can still figure out how to do this. The biggest problem I remember having on these videos is trying to crunch everything down into a small enough video while still covering the game properly, so let's just get down to it. Alright, so I should probably start out with a little bit of where this game came from and how I stumbled across it. It's from a Mr. David Ward, and I had seen a little bit of him here and there in random Discord traffic where we crossed paths on occasion. Never spoke to him directly until me and Avenue Studios started setting up a game for nuts, and he joined as a player. Turns out he was also a fan of the D12, which you will see in Ironbound, so we had a common interest to bond over, because we all know the dice are what's really important here. He had a great time in the Nuts one-shot, so we got to talking about some design work and decisions and choices we had made and all that good stuff, and that got me interested in the game he was working on. So long story short, I ended up joining a session he was running of Plaguebound, which uses the Ironbound rules but puts them in a different setting, and I will get a little more into that later, but the point of this is I had a good time. If you've watched other Avenue Studios content, you've probably seen him a time or two over there. We were even in another stream together with him where we playtested a game called Fathom, which I need to do a review on sooner or later. All that to say, Mr. Dave seems like an alright kind of guy, and that's not just because he has nice things to say about my nuts. So that's the man behind Ironbound, but what about the game itself, and why am I just now getting to it? Well, that's the sad part. I actually didn't get to play this game until I think the last 48-ish hours it was on BackerKit. I really wish I had gotten to it sooner so I could have shared it with y'all and maybe got him some more money raised, but do not despair. The BackerKit goal was only $500 and he managed to push it all the way to $2,100, which is super cool. And as of writing this, if you find this game to be something that you're interested in, you can still pre-order it and get the special backer options like creating an NPC or whatever. Now, as for the game itself, it is a D12 class-based system with some EZD6 inspiration that I'm sure you will notice along the way, but with some neat twists and just a little bit of extra crunch. In Dave's own words, I really wanted something that was simple to pick up and play, but still had some depth for advanced players. And with the little bit of experience I had with it, I can at least say he does get the simple to pick up part down. As for the extra depth for more advanced players, I could see where that comes into play, but I don't consider myself an advanced player, plus I have limited experience with this game. But maybe you can come to your own conclusions as we dig into this thing. Now, the setting is urban fantasy of the modern era, and he picked that because that's what he wanted to do. He said he found plenty of systems for cyberpunk, post-apocalyptic, fantasy, and the like, but nothing that quite scratched the itch for urban fantasy. Fast forward a couple years of working on this, and I'd wager he's probably a little bit tired of urban fantasy by now, but hey, we at least get to benefit from the labor, right? Okay, so now that you know about the author and had a very brief overview of the game, let's actually open the PDF because that's all I have at the moment. First thing I noticed in the PDF was lots and lots of bookmarks so you can quickly jump around to where you need to be. That's always very nice to have, especially if you don't have any software that lets you add bookmarks yourself. On top of that, everything in the table of contents is a hyperlink to that page, so bonus points for that. Also, you will notice that there are 128 full-size pages of information, which might lead you to think this is a bit more complicated than advertised, but check this out. The How to Play section is only 8 pages long, and you can see here that one page is just a table of conditions, and this one is mostly a picture, which brings me to the next thing. The art. As we go through this thing, you will notice various styles of art, and some of you might be thinking, blah, 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 he used AI art, I'm not buying anything that uses that, I don't care how... Well, good news for you, because Dave elected not to use any AI art in his book, and the reason you'll see various styles is because the art not only comes from Adobe stock and Shutterstock, but also these artists right here, none of which I can pronounce. Now, as for the rest of the book, I can't really comment too much because it is in the middle of being worked on. And a very good example of what I mean is the monster stat blocks in the back of the book. Pretty nice looking stat block, right? But you see these symbols right here? Those are all going away, meaning these are going to look entirely different. The stats themselves aren't changing, it's just how they're represented. Dave decided to be easier for everyone to just have the defining word next to the stat instead of a symbol that they have to remember. And as you can see here, the end result will be very different looking than what we have now. And I would imagine several areas of the book will experience a similar retooling while getting polished up for a final release. Though I will say, I do appreciate his method of presenting all this world's information to you in small chunks, which I guess I can get into now and is why I put these two in the same section. As I mentioned earlier, this is a modern era urban fantasy setting, so expect things like cars and guns, but also vampires, werewolves, wizards, and the like. But also, all of this goodness takes place in a massive city known as Grimwood City. I mean, obviously you can take it wherever you want, and since it's a modern era setting, you could do what is Adam's favorite thing and use real-world maps for your TTRPG sessions. But Grimwood City is the location that it provides, along with its inhabitants, and that's the part I really want to point out here because I appreciate the way this is done. First off, the information is presented in these nice, easily digestible chunks. Here you can see some of the different districts the city offers, like Dawn Row, Iron Chapel, and Littleton, not to be confused with Megaton from Fallout 3. And each of these blocks of text give you a tidbit of information about the place and what you can expect to find there. The Obsidian District, for example, is home to the rich and wealthy. He describes it as having mansions, luxurious apartments, perfect lawns, and gated communities. In other words, he paints you a nice little picture of it. On top of that, he'll throw in a couple points of interest within the district, such as the Velvet Vial nightclub, which is a club the vampires use as a hunting ground. But while you do have a nice picture painted for you, you also have plenty of wiggle room to do what you want, and that's by design. The factions are done the exact same way, so let's look at the Silk Weavers Guild as an example. More like let's look at that like and subscribe button now. They're a group of were-spiders who practice an ancient magic that is used as a form of prophecy and seeing the future. This ability fetches a high price on the black market. Their leader is Nicole Collins, and they hide their little operation under a silk-producing farm called PM Silk Incorporated. And that's it. It doesn't say that all were-spiders are X, and they all act like Y, and will always align with Z. Kind of like some other big-name game that won't be mentioned. There can be other were-spiders out there if you want. This is just a specific group of them. They can be ugly, hairy spiders or shiny and smooth black widows. They could be downright selfish and evil, or they could be an operation that is morally gray, picking and choosing who they sell their prophetic abilities to in order to keep the city balanced for both good and evil. The rest of the were-spiders in Grimwood City might look down on the Silk Weavers Guild and consider it a heretical practice. And I think that's really, really cool. All of these info blocks have found a happy little spot between being a prompt and a full-on description, and it really builds not only an interesting world, but a rather full one. There's even some religions in here too, most of which I can't pronounce, but what else is new? Alright, so this is the big part most of us are curious about, right? The setting and art and everything else can be the coolest thing in the world, but if the rules are no good and it's no fun to play, well, then it's just not fun to play, is it? 5-star script writing right there. The good news is it was fun to play, or at least I thought so. The Ironbound system is a D12 system, and like EZD6, you will be rolling your D12s with boons and banes. And for those of you unfamiliar with EZD6, that's just rolling with advantage and disadvantage that stacks. So 2 boons to a task means you would roll 2 additional D12s and keep the highest rolled, whereas 2 banes would roll the same way, but you'd keep the lowest. And speaking of EZD6, Dave took a page out of that when it came to spellcasting. As a matter of fact, I was talking with Dave about it one day, and he made mention that he actually did just reach out to Scotty and ask if he could essentially steal that system. And of course, Scotty said yes, because he is the Bob Ross of the tabletop world. What this means is that there are no spell lists when it comes to magic. It is very free form, use your creativity kind of thing. Throwing a fireball? Do it. Making a wall of fire? Do it. Covering the floor in ice? Do it. You get the idea. Now, when it comes to spending actions in combat, Ironbound uses an action point system, and each character has 3 action points. And as you can see here on the list, most of your main actions will consume 2 points, with simpler things only taking 1. It's also worth noting that a reaction will also cost 1 point, so it's worth hanging on to 1 until your next turn. There's also rules for death saving throws, fall damage, damage reduction, reloading, classes, races, blah, 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 and all that kind of stuff. But the big thing I want to get into is the 3 different point pools that every character gets. You have arcane, physical, and mental point pools you can pull from, and the amount you have is determined when creating your character. Now, for you EZD6 players, you're probably familiar with the karma system. You know, the points that I always forget to keep up with. When you're rolling your D6s, you can use your karma points to increase the roll's value. So if you roll a 5, you can spend 1 karma point to up that up to a 6 and make it a crit. In Ironbound, you can do the same thing with your D12s, but you have to use the related pool of points. Meaning, if you were doing something physical and failed the roll, you could up the roll by spending points from your physical pool. And if you're thinking, oh, well, that just means I have 3 different flavored pools of karma. You have good old-fashioned HP, but once that hits 0, all the damage applied to you starts coming out of your pools. And the whole time you're at 0 HP, all rolls will have 2 banes on them. Should one of those pools hit 0 due to the damage being inflicted to it, you're going to be in big trouble, also known as dead, or at least downed. And yes, it is any of those 3 pools, not just the physical one. This means a psychic or something magical could inflict some mental damage and take you down. There's also higher tier baddies that can completely bypass your HP and damage one of those pools directly. So you have this karma-like resource you can use to boost your rolls, but at the same time, you don't want to willy-nilly spend them whenever you can, because they're also going to help you stay alive. But when that roll is just so close to a crit, it's tempting to spend them. Now, I unfortunately don't have any footage to show you from the session I had because it was all offline, despite us being online and in a Discord call, and mostly just for testing and experimenting with the Plaguebound setting, which, don't worry, I haven't forgot that I said I'd explain that, you just gotta hang tight. But I will say I could see some of the crunch influence, if you will, when it came to combat. And by that, there was some double-checking distances and movement to make sure things were in range and following the rules, which started to remind me ever so slightly of Dungeons & Dragons. But here's the thing. Right about when the PTSD of 5e started to set in with the rule checking, EZD6's influence on Ironbound swooped in and not only simplified things, but kept them moving and the dice rolling. In other words, I think Dave succeeded in finding that middle ground between beginner-friendly and advanced. I picked it up just fine, and I'm an idiot. I know some of you think that I'm actually intelligent and know what I'm doing here, but I'm telling you, I'm not smart. I'm creative. I know how to make it look like I know what I'm doing. Sometimes. Anyway, to wrap up on the rules and gameplay here, I will say that while it is a D12 system, that is not the only die you will use. You have an HP pool instead of the strikes from EZD6, which means your attacks will be using various types of dice, as you can see on the tables here. Also, the GM will be rolling dice too during the combat, unlike Tricube tables and Tricube Tales and Nuts, where all the rolls are from the players. And I suppose I should mention character creation, but I'm going to buzz through it real quick so I don't give away everything. It's actually really simple. All your pools start with 2 points, and you have 6 points you can distribute as you wish. You pick a race and a class, which of course will give you bonuses and benefits. Then, if you want to, you can grab additional feats at the cost of 1 flaw per feat up to a specific amount. Then you choose your equipment. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. Now, what is this Plaguebound thing that I keep mentioning? Plaguebound is one of the few additional settings that Dave would like to make for his Ironbound system. He has plans to do a sci-fi one as well, and eventually a superhero one too. Plaguebound is the fantasy setting, and all of these additional settings and modules will use the same set of rules found in the Ironbound system. What you'll get in a new setting is new classes, races, religions, weapons, locations, and that kind of thing, which will be done in a similar fashion as Ironbound. And by that, I mean these groovy little info chunks that give you plenty to work with, but don't write you into a corner. I got to play as a mushroom dude in our one-shot, and he already had a lot of lore set up for these guys. Honestly, it reminded me a good bit of the Fungali that Glee made in our mushroom campaign. Despite it being my first time, I was able to jump into this game fairly easily, and things went pretty smoothly, which, by the way, reminds me of something I almost completely forgot to mention. Part of the big test we were doing was testing out the Foundry VTT module that he's making. And man, he's got that thing set up pretty sweet. We did find a couple small hiccups here and there, like something not automatically getting added to a roll, but that was the whole point of the test. Now, as far as how it's laid out and ease of navigation, he nailed it. And while I don't have any footage of the game we played, like I said, he did give me access to the Foundry module, so I can at least show you what all it's currently looking like. So I think I'm going to cut it there because I'm getting to that point where I just start thinking and rambling off random small bits that aren't connected in any way whatsoever. So big congrats to Mr. Dave on Ironbound, both for finding extra success with his backer kit as well as making a really interesting system and setting. And since you made it this far in the video, I'm going to let you in on a little secret. I bought the Create an NPC package on the backer kit, so if you pick this game up, you may or may not find little old me roaming around Grimwood City, so be on the lookout. Now, normally I would do a shout out here, but not this time, because I am going to use this time to tell you that by the time you're watching this, I will have already been in New Orleans for a day. I'll be here today, tomorrow, and coming back on Saturday, just in time for a game of Dim Day Red with Avenue Studios. And that is going to be run by the co-writer of the adventure we'll be playing, so super looking forward to that and hope you all will drop by. That'll be at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time on the 23rd. But this also means that I will be slow to get back to your comments for the first few days the video comes out, but please do drop some, as I always check them sooner or later, and I do try to respond to everyone. So, check it out, join his Discord, watch some of his streams, all the links will be down in the description below, and I'm going to get back to vacation.